exclusive Tony
The hottest podcast in the digital realm. And I'm your host, the one and only JM. And this is where business and sports and entertainment collide. Yeah, we dive head first into the deepest waters of business, sports and entertainment, bringing you industry titans, startup wizards, sports geniuses. Yeah, and we're going to take it to the next level. Analyzing power plays on both in the sports and entertainment and in the boardroom. Yeah, so whether if you're an aspiring mogul or just someone who's curious about the world of business or about the world of sports and entertainment, yeah, we're here to keep you engaged and informed. And stay tuned. Hey, man, because look, we're going to do something. We're going to build some of the biggest tidal waves on these YouTube metaverse realm.
Let's do it.
You understand me? And today, I got the boxing savant.
That's right.
The boxing genius.
The one and only.
The boxing historian.
That's it.
The one and only Albert Prince.
The black young Burt Sugar. That's me without the hat.
Yes, sir.
I wear the hat, I wear the hair. So I just need a cigar. Somebody give me a cigar so I can look like Burt. A cigar and a tie.
Hey, man, before we start off
R.I.P.
the
Burt
show,
Sugar.
man.
I love that dude.
Hey, man, before we start off the show, man, I got to give you a little gift, man.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
man. I got a gift.
Oh, boy.
From Game Winners.
Look at that.
From Game Winners.
What y'all know about that? Hold on. Let me fold.
Game Winners, man.
What y'all talking about, man?
So, look, man. So, Game Winners really, let me tell y'all what Game Winners is all about. It's all about mental elevation. That mindset that you need to be in to accomplish your dreams, to heighten your ambition, to motivate you. And that's what Game Winner stands for. It stands for, winning the game, everything it takes for you to win the game. And, when we talk about the sports game, when we talk about the business game, a lot of them got to have the same culture. They got to have the same principles. Never say die.
Yep.
Keep it going. Never give up. Never give in to temporary
Only the
defeats.
strong survive.
Hey, that's a fact right there, man. So that's what that brand stands for, man. I got it on me, and he got it on him now.
Like the late great marvelous Marvin Hagley used to say, "This is war."
This is war. Every day is war. Hey, man. So look. So yesterday, Charlo and Canelo, they weighed in. They faced off.
Yeah.
They weighed in and they faced off.
They weighed in already?
Well, they ain't weighed in. They faced
I
off.
finna say, because them boys going to get big. They weighed in on a Thursday.
Say, man.
Hey, look.
Charlo look big.
I understand. He do look big, but
Charlo bigger than Canelo, man.
man, he naturally, neither one of them are naturally that big. Let's be clear about that. Both of them started at 54, but Canelo has been around the world a bit longer. Fought some light heavyweights, fought some super middleweights. Of course, he fought the monster Triple G twice. So he's had, he's gotten accustomed to the bigger, badder cats. Kovalev, although I think that fight was fixed. That's a discussion for another day. Yeah, man, I see him. He's taller. But it's his first time. He going from 54 to 68 with no tune-up fights.
And he jump a weight class on that one?
Two-weight class. He jumped over 60. Whoa. He jumped over his brother, Jermell, which I thought Jermell would be moving up, but it said it's Jermell who's moving from one. And let me just say, I don't know what kind of weight struggles Jermell has been having, making 154, because a lot of his fights, I'll say this, when you look at the fight pattern of Jermell, a few of his later fights have been a little bit closer than you're used to seeing. For the first part of his career, like fights 1 through, I don't know, maybe 28, 29, were basically whitewashes. He was wiping dudes out, but then the Tony Harris fight happened. We know what happened with the Tony Harrison fight.
That was a crazy. This would have kind of made me feel like I don't know if he really ready for Canelo yet.
Well, that fight was.
He struggled with him.
Yeah, but that was what, 4 years ago. That don't seem like it's 4 years ago now. But there was a couple other fights. The Brian Castellano fight, which was a split decision, which was a really strange fight. That fight, that was a very close fight. He won. He fought him a second time and knocked him out. It looks like maybe it was a case of him not taking him serious the first time, but the second time they fought, he stopped him. But maybe it could be that he's been struggling to make that 54. Because if you and your brother identical twins, your brother's been in 160 for this long time, and you still at 54. Maybe you've been pushing yourself to make 54, and now it's time to move on. But I still say that's that's a heavy task.
But you know what I think though? I think he don't really want to be in the same weight class as his brother. So
no, they're not going nowhere near each other, and they've already made that perfectly clear.
Yeah, exactly.
But Canelo right now, I know he.
But
lost
they running it at them two brothers running it. You hear me?
Yeah, they running it, but I think one of the things that's happened is they've run out of options at that weight. They both messed around and let Triple G get too old. Neither one of them will move up to fight Triple G.
That's smart.
Canelo went on. Canelo moved on from that division. So all the money is gone. You got the guys here and there, but there's really no money for either one of them there anymore. They let the money get away from them, and so now they got to go chase the money.
Hey, speaking of big money fights, man, I think he wanna. He say him and Terrence Crawford gonna get it in. He said that on the Breakfast Club.
You got to be careful because you go up to 68 and then try to go back down to 54. That's what done Roy Jones in, going up from 75 to 200 and then going back down. The only person, just to show you what kind of a freak he was, who could do that was Thomas Hitman Hearns. Went from 60 to 75, went back down and won the middleweight title, becoming the first fighter to beat Rodon. Becoming the first fighter in history to win titles in 4 divisions. He won the welterweight title from Cuevas, the 154 title from Wilfred Benitez, went up to Andres at 175 after he failed to beat Hagler, won a 175 title from Dennis Andres, and then went back down and beat Rodon for the middleweight title. So he went up 2 divisions and back down. But if you know anything about Tommy Hearns, he has a very weird frame. He's got those long shoulders and those chicken legs. So he was able to put on enough weight up top and take it. The problem happens when a lot of guys try to put on weight here and here in your core, right, and then try to take it off. I think that's what done Roy Jones in. He had too much weight to take off between here and here. Yeah. But Thomas Hearns put on weight up here only, and his shoulders were already, touch the doors. So he had enough shoulder to put that weight on and then to just melt it back down when he came back down to 60 to fight Rodon. But, everybody's not built like Tommy. He's built like a freak. Yeah. But, as far as Charlo is concerned, it's going to be a tall task because he does have a tendency to stand in there a little bit and try to.
Speaking of tendencies, I do want to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of both fighters.
Okay, well let's get into that. I think the strengths of Canelo. Let's start with Canelo since he's the defending champion. The strengths of Canelo is, to me, the biggest strength is his experience. He's been in there with some of the all-time greats. He's been in there with Mayweather, and we talk about the loss making him stronger. That loss, to me, made him who he is today. He's been in there with Triple G twice, so he knows what it's like to be in there with somebody who's gonna put that constant pressure on you, hit you with bombs. He's been in there with Daniel Jacobs, who's another tough guy. Yeah. He's been in there with, going back to his earlier days. He was in there with Cintron and Sugar Shane Mosley and Austin Trout, those fast guys or those smaller guys that's got that speed. And we talked about that last time. We talked about Terrence Crawford, how he got molded by Yuriorkis Gamboa, how that helped him out. So you have all of this. He was in there with Miguel Cotto. He was in there with Chavez Jr. He was, he jumped up and fought Sergey Kovalev, although that was a mighty fishy fight to me. Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant beat both of those. Billy Joe was a slick guy who got caught. Caleb Plant was a slick guy who got caught. Yeah. Bivol was just too big for him, too strong. But he showed what Canelo showed in the Bivol fight.
I think Canelo was hurt.
I don't think he was hurt in that fight. I think it was a little bit of the same thing that happened with Errol Spence, where he didn't have a plan B. He went in there.
He thought he was gonna take him out. He thought he was gonna take him out.
Even when the dude just put his hands up and just caught all when Canelo thought he was just landing some bombs, he just put his hands up like, man.
Yeah, I ain't never seen nobody take.
I'm a true 175 pounder. He just pushed him off like, man, get up against the. Canelo should have been able to do something else, but only thing he went back to was just bang. And that's, to me, I want to keep on his strengths before I go to his weaknesses. His strengths are his agility, his ability that he's gained through fighting all these multiple styles and multiple fighters. He's got a great chin. He's got great stamina. He puts great combinations together. He's got great power. He does have clever defense. He's a great all-around fighter. I do definitely see why people hold him in such high regard.
They say he a GOAT.
He's an all-time great. He's still not the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. That's a subject maybe we'll cover today. Some of the great Mexican fighters. We also going to talk about we're going to mention one of those guys. One of the things we're going to talk about is some of the guys who would have been great if they had not passed away. Yeah. But yeah, he's got all of those strengths going for him. Weaknesses, I mean, I guess the only weakness that I see kind of manifest itself in the Bivol fight was his inability to adapt once he was down, once he was losing. He was losing, really, the truth is he was losing to Billy Joe Saunders, but he caught Saunders, and Saunders, like a punk, quit on his stool because his eye was busted or whatever. Just goes to show you what fighters today, no way you would have took a fight in the 80s. It would have broken eye socket. He would have quit. They'd have still been fighting until somebody got knocked out. But I think that against Bivol, he showed the inability to adjust when his style wasn't working. I don't know if Charlo will present something to him that will force him to have to adjust. That will be his only his other weakness to me. He's a little flat-footed. He can be a little flat-footed. He can get a little, he'll wait for you to come to him. He won't put killer pressure on you and pursue you. And when he does, he's not very effective on it because he's so short. He's 5'8", so he's not really taking those large steps to get to you, to bring you down. A lot of times when he goes after guys, like you saw how long it took him to get Caleb Plant. Billy Joe Saunders ran into a punch. But, I mean, if he'd have stayed safe on the outside, he'd have just boxed. It looked like Canelo was just content with just standing it and just moving around in a circle before he caught Billy Joe with an uppercut that broke his orbital bone or broke his eye socket. But he gets a little complacent with his feet. Those would be the weaknesses. As far as Charlo is concerned, a good all-around fighter, a good power, good speed. Now, I say all of that, but a lot of that goes out of the window until proven. It's really hard to measure what his strengths are when you're jumping from 154 to 168. Even Roberto Duran, who went from 135 to 147 to beat Sugar Ray Leonard, which was the most famous two-weight jump in history, that one and Sugar Shane Mosley. But in both of those cases, they both took tune-ups at the weight that they jumped to before they jumped in with the big fish.
He ain't taking no tune-up.
He ain't take no tune-up. He just jumping right in with the big fish.
Jumping right in.
So it's really I'll tell you all of his strengths, but that's at 154. So, it really, what is the point of going through his strengths when he's at a division we've never seen him before? He's a hard puncher at 154.
Yes, he is.
And he don't finish everybody there. So now you finna go up and fight a guy with an iron chin who Gennady Golovkin couldn't stop twice.
That's true.
As far as his strengths, but his strengths are his strengths. He's got good speed. He's got good boxing ability. He's got good movement. He too gets complacent. He gets lulled into brawls. He's too talented to get lulled into brawls. Sometimes these fighters with all of this boxing ability, they want to show their toughness, and nothing wrong with that. We want to see your toughness every now and then, but do it intelligently. Don't let yourself get lulled into a brawl. He's got lulled into a brawl a couple of times. I think he got lulled into a brawl in his only loss against Tony Harrison. He got lulled into a brawl against Brian Castellano in that first fight they fought. But he's best when he's using it. He's got a great jab. Both of the Charlo brothers have a great jab. That may come in handy against someone who is as short as Canelo. Yeah. He's got like a power, and he doesn't have like a flickering jab either. He's got like the Charlo brothers have I say a Sonny Liston, George Foreman, like a Joe Louis, like a piston jab where it pushes you back. So that could come in handy if he could, just wear Canelo down with that jab and be able to keep Canelo from countering inside and countering over the top, because Canelo is great with timing your jab, countering over the top, countering inside. So if he can keep that jab and be and not be so predictable with the jab. Be more Thomas Hearns to the jab. Thomas Hearns, to me, I know a lot of people believe Larry Holmes has the greatest left jab in history. I believe it's Thomas Hitman Hearns slightly, because Thomas Hitman Hearns, his jab was so multifaceted. He would take his arm, and first of all, he would just move it around in front of your face to show you, to threaten you with it. Snake charm, you move it back and forth, and then he would just flick that thing out, and then all of a sudden he flicks it out, and then he turns a jab into a left hook. like off the same punch, just one boom, and then next thing you know, you got to deal with a guy who can throw a jab at you and then turn that jab into a left hook. And then he can feint it to the head and throw it to the body and back. I mean, he was just so multifaceted with the jab. You never knew where it was coming from. And Sugar Ray Leonard dealt with this. The great Sugar Ray Leonard. You got a guy that's 6'2" and he's standing in front of you and he's feinting you. And he's feinting you. And then he jabs you and he feints you again. And you don't know what's coming because he's got this left and he can do all kind of things with it. I think Charlo needs to make his left more than just a jab hand, but he needs to make it a snake charmer where it guides Canelo and makes Canelo go wherever he wants Canelo to go. That's what I think his strengths are, and I think he could use against Canelo.
Yeah, I think he very strong fighter. I think he should have took a tune-up fight, man.
I do too.
Just to gauge where his power at.
I do too.
Just to gauge where everything is.
But you know what? We always complain about how fighters don't do things like the fighters in the past do.
That's true.
I give these dudes they credit, man.
Yeah.
I give these dudes they props. These dudes are starting to come with it. They're starting to make the fight. We complain and complain and complain. So, hey, props to these dudes for daring to be great.
Daring to be great.
Props to these dudes for daring to be great. For saying, you know what, to heck with it. Let me fight this dude. Exactly. I feel I'm this great. I feel I'm greater than he is. I'm not scared to lose. I'm more scared to try than I am to lose.
Exactly.
I think that's wearing off. That Mayweather effect is wearing off on people. And people saying, man, you know what? I'd rather take the loss and take the fight and make the money as opposed to not fighting and having. What's the use of having an undefeated record when my bank account ain't showing it?
That's
let me take this fight and make this money and dare to be great. How many fighters have taken losses but they still been great? Sugar Ray Leonard took his first loss to Duran, still great. Duran took a loss to Sugar Ray, still great. Tommy took a loss to Marvin, still great. So, greatness isn't defined if you lose in a fight that you took the dare to be great. When you take a fight when you dare to be great, you're not going to be defined if you lose that fight. You're more defined if you never take those fights, if you never take those risks when you dare to be great. That would be the one thing that people, for as great as Floyd Mayweather is, that would be the one thing the thing that people would have to hold against him, not daring to be great. Which, you could look at it one or two ways. When he was at 130 pounds, nobody, upper weight division wanted to mess with him because he was too dangerous at 130 pounds.
I can't let you get away with daring to be great and Mayweather in the same sense.
What you mean?
Did he not take out Canelo in his prime?
Well, I say
Canelo was 24?
You know what?
A young spring chicken.
Yeah, he did, and
he was like 40 something.
To me, I've said it. To me, the two greatest moments of his career are Chico Corrales and Canelo Alvarez.
But he made Canelo look. Nobody made Canelo look like that.
Canelo was green, and he took advantage. I'm gonna tell you what Mayweather did. He took advantage, and we touched on this a little bit last week. He took advantage of the fact that he was in a fight. What people don't understand, one of the things that made Floyd Mayweather so great, and what allowed him to be able to fight the age he was and be so great. Floyd Mayweather took 1980s and 90s skill set into an era where people didn't have that kind of skill set. And now you look at Canelo at 33 years old and just dogging dudes. It's the same thing. He learned from Mayweather. He picked up a lot of James Toney, Mike McCallum, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, slick 1980s, 1990s skill set, and he's applied it in an era where guys just don't have that greater skill set.
Do you think Canelo is as great as he is now without taking that loss to Mayweather?
I don't think he's as great as he is if he doesn't take that fight. I think he's still a great fighter. I don't think he's as great as he is. And that's just another example of a guy who takes a loss but still an all-time great.
That's a fact.
He took a loss and he learned. And people don't hold. Now, I think people get out of line. Some of his constituents and fight fans, I'm going to just say it, the Mexican fight fans, they get a little out of line with this, oh, he was young. Look, first of all, Canelo, let's talk about it. Canelo, when he fought Floyd Mayweather, he was an undefeated fighter.
Yes, he was.
Right? He was.
Check.
He was 42-0.
Check.
He was 24 years old.
Check.
He was a two-time world champion.
Check.
And he'd already beaten he'd beaten 4 current or former world champions.
Check.
So if you're 24 years old, you're 42-0, you're beating 4 current or former world champions, that's your prime.
Ain't that the same age Mayweather was when he fought Corrales?
No, he was 23.
Damn.
Thomas Hearns was 22. And Sugar Ray Leonard was 25 when they fought, and they were both. That fight was billed both the young welterweights in their prime. And so what a lot of people say was, oh, he was young. No. He was in his physical boxing prime.
Yes, sir.
Now, a lot of people say, well, if he was in his prime, why is he so great now? He's so great now because he's added the skill set of fighters from an era when fighters had the highest skill set, in an era where a lot of fighters' skill sets are absolute trash. They're basic. They throw 1-2 punches at a time. They don't apply the nuances. They want to get in there and do the thing that's the I watch, I go on.
I just want to say this. R.I.P. to Emmanuel Stewart, man.
Emmanuel Stewart was a great fight.
R.I.P. to Emmanuel Stewart, man.
That crunk gym. But a lot of I go on social media sites and on Instagram and YouTube, and I watch a lot of prospects, right? And I'm looking at their skill set. And they're scoring knockouts and they're scoring big wins, but I'm looking at their skill set and I'm like, is nobody seeing how primitive the skill? Are we going backwards skill set wise in boxing? Like I'm watching guys throw wide looping punches. I'm not watching crisp combinations come up the middle. I'm not watching, the slick, and Canelo has that in an era where people don't. And who else has that in an era where people don't? Terrence Crawford has that in the era where people don't. And so that's why these guys are able to fight until they're 36 and 33 and 34, because they've got a skill set in an era where people simply don't know what to do with that kind of skill. Look at somebody like, let's talk about two guys who had that skill set, right? James Toney and Bernard Hopkins. Both fighters fought from the 90s. James Toney beat Michael Nunn in 91, was still a prominent fighter until the 2010s. Bernard Hopkins won his first world title in 1995 and was a prominent fighter up until he was almost 50 years old. The reason why they're able to do that is because their skill set was so great that they fought into an era where the skill sets of fighters started to decline, but they'd already had this established skill set from fighting all these greats. They were able to stay around longer than they should have because the fighters that they were running into as they got older just didn't have the skills to stay with them. So when I look at fighters like Canelo, I look at fighters like Mayweather, who fought until he was almost 40. I look at fighters like JT, and I look at Bernard Hopkins, and look at these fighters. These fighters are able to fight so long. It's not that Canelo wasn't to get back to the original point, it's not that Canelo wasn't in his prime, but now fighters are able to fight longer because the skill set, two reasons. The skill set of fighters today is not what it used to be. And also, there aren't enough greats on the horizon coming. See, in the 80s, you had to get it in before you were 32, 33 because some greats were coming in the next Olympic class.
They was coming.
You know what I mean? They were coming.
Yeah,
Sugar Ray Leonard had to get it in because Terry Norris was coming.
Yeah.
James Toney was coming.
Yeah.
Michael Nunn was coming.
Shit.
Donald Curry was coming.
Shit.
So you always had great fighters on the horizon. Mark Breland was coming.
Shit.
So they had to get all the fighters in the 70s and the 60s and the late 60s, early 70s had to get it in because Marvin Hagler was coming.
Shit.
Sugar Ray Leonard was coming.
Shit.
Spinks Brothers was coming.
Shit.
Aaron Pryor was coming.
Shit.
Salvador Sanchez was coming.
Shit.
So you had to get it in, man, because you always had because boxing was still in its prominent days. You always had a slew of young prospects that were coming, but now they aren't coming. And so because they aren't coming, Canelo could stick around till he's 34, 35, 36.
Yeah, he got some new tricks in his bag.
Crawford could stick around till he's 36 because who's coming?
Yeah.
They got one now. Or what's his name? Boots. Which people need to chill out on the Boots thing, and I'm going to tell you why people need to chill out on the Boots.
He got to keep on running that race, man.
Nah, it ain't that, man. I done seen that movie before. You done seen a movie before, and you know how it ends because you see.
They trying to throw him in there with Terrence Crawford.
We've seen. Oh, he's undefeated. Like, look, folks, Don't be fooled by these flashy, undefeated records with a high knockout ratio.
That's a fact.
Julian Jackson was maybe the hardest puncher in the history of boxing. 28-0 with 28 knockouts. But he stepped in there against body snatcher McCallum and got schooled within 2 rounds.
Yeah, he did.
John the Beast Mugabe was 26-0 with 26 knockouts, knocking people through brick walls. Stepped in there with Marvelous Marvin Hagler, and what happened to him? Yuri Boy Campos, a lot of people forget about him, was 54-0 with 51 knockouts. Stepped in there with Felix Trinidad and got beheaded. So, like, I've seen the young undefeateds. Oh, he great, he young, he undefeated. And then they get in there with the champ, and they get exposed. Yep. So don't get that young man exposed because he got a pretty record, man, because it's happened too many times over the years.
Yeah, that's a fact. That is a total fact, man. So, look, so this is what I think about, because let's go back to the Charlo and Canelo, right? Mm-hmm. So the weaknesses that I actually see with Charlo, man, he give you time to set up. You know, I don't know if he trying to analyze a strategy that you coming up with or lure you into
Everybody does that now. And the reason why everybody does that now is it goes back to what I just said.
But you can't you can't allow them to stack their chips, man, to set up make that first move on you.
Look at outside of the fight we just saw, and the fight we just saw with Crawford and Spence. Outside of that fight and a few other fights that we've seen recently, outside of those fights, fighters just stand there and wait. I sometimes I watch these fights, bro, and I'm like, what are they waiting on? Like, I grew up in an era where when you were fighting,
you got to it.
Even if you don't get to it, even if you don't get to it, you're working behind a jab. You got a jab going.
Yeah.
You know, you got a jab in the face of your opponent. Thomas Hearns kept his jab in the face of his opponent. Sugar Ray Leonard kept his jab.
Kept it pumping.
Roberto Duran kept, pressuring you and kept his jab in your face. You know, these fighters, they just stand, and a lot of them, to me, they're looking for that. It's almost like the NBA, where everybody's looking for the ESPN highlighty play.
Uh-huh.
They don't want to take the easy backboard shot. They want to do something that's going to get them on ESPN. I think that's what a lot of fighters today now do. They're standing there waiting for they're waiting for the big shot. They're waiting for the big shot. They're waiting for you to throw so they can slip and counter like Floyd or like James Toney. They're waiting to do something fancy instead of just keeping the jab and just pumping that jab. Just dang, just move around. Just boom, boom, pump that jab. Keep that jab in the face. They're just waiting.
But waiting. Another thing that I see is it's like 2 more things or 3 more things that I see. He loses his composure a lot, right?
Yeah.
He starts swinging wild, Charlo.
Yep.
Sometimes. Yeah. He don't have a big punch output.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be Canelo, man, you got to have a big punch output.
Speaking of punch output, did you see the Navarte Valdez fight? Did you see that?
Hey, what punch output?
Bro, the Mexicans never let you down.
Hey, boy, what?
They do not. Man.
They can't even count all them punches.
Navarte, man, he, man, look.
They can't count all them punches.
Sleeping on that dude, man. Look, I know it don't look pretty.
They be lying on the punch counters.
But look, that dude there, man. Look, if he can get to that lightweight division, if he can get to that lightweight, the only thing I'm concerned about with him is his power at the lightweight division.
Yeah.
Because you got some horses up there. But getting back to the whole punch output thing. Nobody does that anymore, man. Like nobody.
But you're not gonna beat Canelo without a big punch output, man. You're just not gonna do it.
I mean,
that's
for me,
how Bevo beat him.
I don't even think Bevo had that high of a punch.
Man,
output.
He was throwing the things on Canelo
when he got him up against the ropes.
Yeah, he was throwing them.
But a lot of that wasn't, even. I'm not gonna say it wasn't landed. I think Canelo just was too small for that. Dude was a big light.
I think he was injured, bro. I really think he was.
Nah, that was a big light heavyweight, bro. A big young.
Yeah, he was big.
Yeah. He was like a Ike Quarte. You remember Ike Quarte? Ike Quarte Bazooka used to put them hands up, and you just couldn't even. And Rinky Wright.
Yeah.
Winky Wright was just keep them in. Another one who both of them probably drew from Marlon Starling, the Magic Man, Marlon Starling. He kept them hands in, man. You couldn't break that defense. That's what Bevo did, man. He kept those hands up.
Yeah.
Where you can get him in. But yeah, I mean, sometimes he does. He gets a little. It's like he gets lost. It's like he's like, all right, this is not working. Let me try to switch up gears and see what else I can do. But I don't necessarily think that's going to work against Canelo, because Canelo just keeps he has too much of a skill set now from all of the fighters that he fought, for the inactivity.
But I'm gonna tell you something else that he
Jermell.
did. Now mark this down. You can mark this down. When he jabs towards the power hand of the opponent. When he jabs towards that power hand. And we know Canelo like to slip punches.
Yeah,
and throw that right.
But the danger in that is something I learned to do in the gym, the parry, and something that James Toney was a master. Sometimes that'll kill you, because if you jab towards a power hand, they'll parry. James Toney, I learned this from watching James Toney and Mike McCallum. If you jab toward that power hand, they'll catch that hand, push it down, and as they're pushing it down, shoot theirs right down the pipe on top of yours.
That's what I'm scared that might happen.
But the only thing that would save him is Canelo's his reach is so short that he might not be able to get there. But we'll see what kind of speed and reflexes Charlo. We in the dark right now. We kind of in the dark. We don't know what he's working with. Coming to 168, we kind of in the dark on that.
Yeah, man. So look, we're gonna move into the hardest punches, man.
Look, let's talk about the hardest punch of all time.
I don't know who the hardest punches are. I say George Foreman.
Hardest punch. Ring Magazine released 100 hardest punches of all time. They redid the list. Let's talk about some of the hardest punches of all time according to Ring Magazine, and we'll see if we can agree with this, or if we don't agree. Ring Magazine, and I might agree. The great name, the hardest punch of all time, is Joe Louis. Now, if you don't know who Joe Louis is, please go do your homework. Joe Louis was a heavyweight champion for, I believe, 13 years. Only lost one fight to Max Millen that he avenged by nearly killing the dude. Yeah. One of the reasons why Joe Louis is considered such a hard puncher is because his balance and his execution was perfect. The way he would throw his punches was absolutely perfect. He had the perfect punch placement and perfect balance. So much so that Joe Louis could hurt you. You could be right in his face thinking you smothering his punches, and he just launch it with you right in his face and knock you out cold. It's very rare to have that kind of punching power. And a lot of guys who would be considered great punchers never showed the ability to just hit guys like that and just knock them out cold. So Joe Louis is I'm going to just mention these guys as candidates. I'm going to talk about some of the candidates, and we can talk and see what you think. I know who my hardest punch of all time is, but I'm kind of biased.
Yeah, save that. Let's go.
But we got Archie Moore, who has the highest knockout percentage in boxing history.
Archie Moore
was the guy who Archie Moore was the guy who knew how to melt down to make 175 pounds and then bulk back up better than anybody, because Archie Moore was famous for eating a meal and chewing it up and spitting it out, but just taking the nutrients in and then taking them out and spitting it out and maintaining, being able to take all them nutrients in, and then he getting the night of the fight and he like 185, 90 pounds. But Archie Moore was a guy who had one punch power and what we call a cumulative power, where he could just wear you down with his punches. Another guy we talk about, Ernie Shavers.
Hold on. I think Archie Moore, watching him fight, I feel like he's the father of the Philly Shell.
Now, the father of the Philly Shell is Georgie Benton, Pernell Whitaker's trainer, one of the greatest trainers of all time.
But if you look at Archie Moore,
he was doing the Philly. No, it wasn't the Philly. He was doing the what is it? The cross arm that George did.
Yeah.
He was the father of that.
That's still the same. It's almost the same.
The Philly Shell is the shoulder roll.
Yeah.
He's doing the cross. I can't remember what they call it, the style. But he was the father of that. You go and watch his old fight footage and you see him cross his arms. Who else used to do that? Not just
Joe Frazier.
Joe Frazier.
George Foreman.
And Azuma Nelson also was a guy who used that style.
And his record was 186.
Look how many knockouts he had.
Man, 132.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's the most in history.
10 losses, man.
That's the most in history. Now
he got the record.
23 losses or 10 draws.
Oh yeah, 23.
Now, funny thing is, it show you how great Ezra Charles was. Ezra Charles beat him 3 times, stopped him twice in their prime. A lot of Archie's greatness came when he was an older man, because he and Ezzard was stuck at light heavyweight where they wouldn't give either one of them a title shot. Ezzard said, "To hell with this, I'm moving up to heavyweight." Moved to heavyweight, and then they held Archie Moore out of the light heavyweight title for years before they finally gave him a shot. The thing is,
that's bullshit.
If Ezzard Charles doesn't get tired and fed up and stays at light heavyweight and say, "I'm just gonna stay until I get my title shot," we probably would have never heard of Archie Moore, because Archie wasn't gonna beat Ezzard. He just was not.
Ezzard Charles was a bad boy.
Yeah, he was not gonna beat Ezzard Charles. Ezzard Charles was just his skill set was he was the first James